Elina Svitolina, born the 12th of September 1994, is a Ukrainian professional tennis player. She has career-high rankings of world number 3 in singles and number 108 in doubles by the WTA. Svitolina has won 19 WTA Tour singles titles, including the 2018 WTA Finals and 4 Premier 5-level tournaments, and has reached 4 major semifinals. Svitolina first broke into the world's top 50 in July 2013 and the top 10 in May 2017, making her the highest-ranked Ukrainian woman in history. Svitolina reached 2 major semifinals in 2019 at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. In 2021, she won an Olympic bronze medal in the women's singles tournament at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics to become the first Olympian to win a medal in tennis for Ukraine. In 2022, Svitolina took a break from professional tennis to give birth to her first child. She made a strong comeback upon her return to competition in 2023, reaching the French Open quarterfinals and the Wimbledon semifinals in her first few tournaments back. She achieved consistent success in the following years, culminating in an Australian Open semifinal and return to the world's top 10 in 2026. Early life and background. Svitolina was born in Odessa to Ukrainian parents, Mikhailo Svitolin, a former wrestler, and Elina Svitolina, a former competitive rower. She has a Jewish grandmother. She was named after the famous Soviet actress Elina Bistritskaya. She has an older brother, Yulian. As a child, she noticed that her brother was getting a lot of attention for playing tennis. This inspired her to take up the sport to regain some of her father's attention. She started playing at age 5. Svitolina and her family moved to Kharkiv, Ukraine when she was 13, after businessman Yuri Sapronov became her sponsor. Sapronov had seen her play at one of his children's tournaments when she was 12 and was impressed, leading to his investment in her training and further professional development. Svitolina officially still resides in Kharkiv but trains abroad, which limits her presence in Odessa and/or Kharkiv, and also has a residence in London. She has said that in her early career she turned down offers to change her citizenship in exchange for large financial sums. Having spoken Russian most of her life, Svitolina has been actively learning the Ukrainian and French languages since the COVID-19 quarantine at the 2021 Australian Open. In January 2022, she promised, in an interview with Dmitry Gordon, to master the Ukrainian language. Career. Early career. Yulian Svitolina began full-time coaching career in 2003 as a head coach of his younger sister, Elina Svitolina. Yulian Svitolina worked with Elina for 5 years. She was 14 years old at that time and made a tremendous improvement and breakthrough at the age of 15 by winning the Grand Slam Roland Garros. Svitolina's greatest achievement as a junior was winning the French Open girls event in 2010, beating Tunisian Ons Jabeur in the final. She reached her first professional singles final at the $25,000 tournament in Kharkiv in May 2010. She also reached the final of the girls singles event at the 2012 Wimbledon Championships, where she lost to Eugenie Bouchard. Svitolina made her WTA Tour main draw debut at the 2012 Baku Cup. She qualified for the U.S. Open and was defeated in the first round by 12th seed and eventual quarterfinalist Ana Ivanovic. She won the WTA 125 Royal Indian Open title in Pune, defeating Andrea Klepak, Rutuja Bosale, Luksika Kumkum, former top 10 player Andrea Petkovic, and Japanese veteran Kimiko Date Krum in the final. 2013 WTA Tour title, Svitolina gained direct entry into the Australian Open, where she was defeated by 5th seed Angelique Kerber in the first round. She won her first WTA title at the Baku Cup by beating Shahar Peer. In doing so, Svitolina became the first teenager to win a WTA tournament since February 2012. The victory led to a jump of 32 spots in the WTA rankings, landing her at number 49 on the 29th of July 2013. 2014. Ascent. Second career title at the Australian Open, Svitolina defeated 2-time Grand Slam champion and 3-time Australian Open quarterfinalist Svetlana Kuznetsova in the opening round in straight sets. She went on to reach the third round, losing to Sloane Stephens in straight sets. After defending her Baku Cup title by beating Bojana Jovanovski in the final, Svitolina played at the Western and Southern Open, where she recorded the first top 10 victory of her career, defeating recently crowned Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova in the second round. She proceeded to reach her first quarterfinal at Premier 5 level, eventually losing to Ana Ivanovic in straight sets. Svitolina reached her first Premier 5 semifinal in the first edition of the WTA tournament in Wuhan, defeating Kamila Georgi, Sabine Lisicki, Garbina Muguruza via walkover, and Angelique Kerber before losing to Petra Kvitova in the semifinals. 2015. First major quarterfinal. Number 15, she began the new season at the Brisbane International, where she reached the semifinals before losing to eventual champion Maria Sharapova. At the Australian Open, Svitolina reached the third round and won the first set against world number 1 and eventual champion Serena Williams before losing in 3 sets. She fell in the second round in both Dubai and Doha, losing in tight 3-set matches to Petra Kvitova and Victoria Azarenka, respectively. As the 23rd seed in Indian Wells, she defeated Alison van Uytvanck and Lucy Safarova before losing in the fourth round to Timea Botsinski. The following week in Miami, she defeated Bojana Jovanovski before losing in the third round to the 8th seed Ekaterina Makarova. As the top seed at a tournament for the first time in Bogota, Svitolina reached the semifinals, defeating Luisa Chirico, Danka Kovinic, and Irina Falconi before losing to eventual champion Teliana Pereira. She continued her successful start to the clay court season by winning her third career title and first on clay in Marrakesh, recovering from 2-5 down in the opening set to defeat Timea Babos in straight sets. The victory propelled her to a career-high ranking of 21. She also reached the semifinals in doubles with compatriot Olga Savchuk. The following week in Madrid, after easily dispatching Daniela Hantuchova, Svitolina lost to Ana Ivanovic for the 6th time in her career. A similar scenario occurred in Rome, where she defeated Flavia Pennetta in straight sets before losing to Venus Williams. At the French Open, after comfortably seeing off Janina Wickmeyer in her opening match, Svitolina had to recover from 0-3 in the second set and 1-4 in the final set to beat Yulia Putintseva in a match that lasted over 3 hours. Another tight 3-set victory ensued in the third round against Annika Beck, before Svitolina defeated Alizé Cornet in a rain-interrupted fourth-round encounter to set up a maiden Grand Slam quarterfinal against 7th seed Ana Ivanovic, which she lost in straight sets. Svitolina rose to number 17 after this tournament, surpassing Ilona Bondarenko as the highest-ranked Ukrainian woman in the Open era, including women from Ukraine who played under the Soviet Union. Svitolina's grass court season was significantly less successful, losing in 3 sets in the second round of Eastbourne to Heather Watson. As the 17th seed at Wimbledon, she came from a set down to beat Misaki Doi, who had beaten her at the same stage the previous year, before again losing in the second round to Australian Casey Dellacqua. Despite losing in the first round of Istanbul to Magdalena Rybarikova, Svitolina successfully defended her doubles title from the previous year, this time partnering Daria Gavrilova. She began U.S. hardcourt season with a run to the semifinals in Stanford, losing in straight sets to eventual champion Angelique Kerber. At the Rogers Cup, Svitolina lost in the first round to Victoria Azarenka. She bettered her performance from the previous year in Cincinnati, defeating Alison Risk, Eugenie Bouchard, and Caroline Garcia to reach the quarterfinals, before defeating Lucy Safarova for the second time this year to progress to her second Premier 5 semifinal, where she lost to Serena Williams. Svitolina concluded her warm-up for the U.S. Open in New Haven, where she retired from her first-round match against Madison Keys. She progressed to the third round of the U.S. Open, defeating Elizaveta Kulichkova and Kaya Kanepi before losing to 13th seed Ekaterina Makarova for the third time this year. The Asian hardcourt swing began in Tokyo for Svitolina, where she lost in the second round to eventual champion Agnieszka Radwanska. Svitolina failed to repeat her success from the previous year in Wuhan, losing in the third round to Karolina Pliskova.
Similarly disappointing results ensued for Svitolina, losing in the second round of Beijing to Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova and the first round of Tianjin to Elena Vesnina. Despite this disappointing end to her season, Svitolina's consistency throughout the year earned her a spot as the 8th seed at the inaugural WTA Elite Trophy in Zhuhai.
She was drawn into Group B with second seed Carla Suarez Navarro and Andrea Petkovic. Svitolina topped the group by winning both her matches, advancing to the semifinals where she lost to Karolina Pliskova. Her last match of the season was against Pauline Parmentier in the first round of the WTA 125 tournament in Limoges, which she lost on a final set tiebreak. 2016 Olympic quarterfinal Svitolina at the 2016 Indian Wells Open. Svitolina began her season at the Hopman Cup, representing Ukraine with Alexander Dolgopolov. She was undefeated in her singles matches in the round-robin stage, defeating Victoria Duval, Karolina Pliskova, and Jarmila Wolf. Svitolina and Dolgopolov were the winners of their group and advanced to the final, where the Australian pairing of Nick Kyrgios and Daria Gavrilova defeated them 2-0, with Svitolina losing her singles match in straight sets. At the Sydney International, Svitolina lost in the first round to Angelique Kerber. In Melbourne, she defeated Victoria Duval in straight sets, before losing to qualifier Naomi Osaka in the second round. In her first tournament with Justine Henin acting as a coaching consultant, Svitolina advanced to the semifinals in Dubai, defeating qualifier Jana Chepelova, earning her first top 10 win of the year over second seed Garbiñe Muguruza, and battling past Coco Vandeweghe in 3 sets, before losing to eventual champion Sara Errani. Svitolina subsequently lost in the first round in Doha to Denisa Alertova. Her next tournament was the Malaysian Open, where she defeated Miyu Kato, Risa Ozaki, Kristina Kucheva, and Zhu Lin en route to the final, where she beat a resurgent Eugenie Bouchard in a rain-interrupted marathon to win her 4th WTA Tour title. This victory saw her maintain her perfect record in WTA Finals, as well as improving her ranking to a career high of 14. At the Indian Wells Open, 17th seed Svitolina defeated Alison van Uytvanck before losing in straight sets to 9th seed Roberta Vinci. Then, in Miami, after defeating Australian Open quarterfinalist Zhang Shuai, Svitolina scored one of the biggest victories of her career, coming from a breakdown in the third set to defeat former WTA number 1 Caroline Wozniacki in 3 sets in the third round. Svitolina subsequently lost in the fourth round to Ekaterina Makarova, who beat her at the same tournament the prior year. Svitolina began her clay court season with a disappointing first-round loss to Alexandra Panova in Bogota, followed by a second-round loss to Daria Gavrilova in Madrid, and a first-round loss to qualifier Monica Puig in Rome. Entering the French Open in poor form, Svitolina beat Romanian qualifier Sorana Cirstea and wildcard Taylor Townsend before beating nemesis and former world number 1 Ana Ivanovic in straight sets. She then lost in the fourth round to world number 1, defending champion and eventual finalist Serena Williams. In Birmingham, she lost in the first round to Carla Suarez Navarro. At Wimbledon, she beat Naomi Brody in straight sets before being upset by Yaroslava Shvedova. At the Rio Olympics, Svitolina scored her first win over defending champion and then world number 1 Serena Williams in the third round to reach the quarterfinals, defeating the out-of-sorts American in straight sets. Svitolina failed to follow up her landmark victory in the next round, however, losing to eventual bronze medalist Petra Kvitova. American hardcourt season began with a run to the third round of Montreal, losing to Angelique Kerber. After a disappointing early loss to Daria Gavrilova in Cincinnati, she rebounded at New Haven, reaching the final before losing to Agnieszka Radwanska. At the U.S. Open, Svitolina reached the third round for the second consecutive year, with wins over Mandy Manella and Lauren Davis, but she lost to Petra Kvitova once again. The Asian hard-court swing proved to be fruitful for Svitolina, reaching the semifinals of both Tokyo, where she was defeated by Naomi Osaka, and Beijing, her first semifinal at premier mandatory level, losing to eventual champion Agnieszka Radwanska. As a result, her ranking was propelled back up to 15, one place shy of her career high, and guaranteed her a place in Zhuhai for the second year running. Her good form continued at the last premier event of the season in Moscow, where she reached the semifinals, her third in 4 tournaments, before bowing out to eventual champion Svetlana Kuznetsova.
Svitolina concluded her season as the 4th seed in Zhuhai. She topped her group by defeating Kiki Bertens and Elina Svitolina, and then came from a set down to defeat top seed Johanna Konta in the semifinals to advance to her 3rd final of the year, where she lost to Kvitova. Svitolina finished the season ranked 14th with an impressive 13-5 win-loss record following the U.S. Open. 2017, 3 Premier 5 titles, number 3. Svitolina began her 2017 season with a strong showing in Brisbane, defeating world number 1 Angelique Kerber in the quarterfinals, before losing to eventual champion Karolina Pliskova in the following round. The victory over Kerber signified her 3rd win over a number 1 ranked player in 5 months. Svitolina was seeded 11th at the Australian Open, her highest seeding to date. She equaled her best showing in Melbourne, reaching the 3rd round with victories over Galina Voskoboyeva and Julia Bosarup, before losing to Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova. Svitolina won her 5th career title at the Taiwan Open, fending off 4 match points in her quarter-final encounter with Ons Jabeur, before defeating Peng Shuai in the final. Svitolina next competed in Ukraine's Fed Cup tie against Australia, where she won both of her singles rubbers to help Ukraine set up a playoff against Germany. Svitolina continued her strong start to the season in Dubai, where she defeated Caroline Wozniacki in straight sets in the final to capture her first title at Premier 5 level. This win propelled her into the WTA top 10 for the first time in her career, making her the first Ukrainian ever to do so. Svitolina failed to carry her momentum into the American hardcourt swing, losing in the 4th round of Indian Wells to Garbiñe Muguruza and the 2nd round of Miami to Bethany Mattek-Sands. She began the clay court season by capturing her 3rd title of the year in Istanbul. Rebounding from a disappointing loss to Zhang Saisai in the 1st round of Madrid, Svitolina then proceeded to reach her 2nd Premier 5-level final of the year and 4th overall in Rome. After defeating 2 top 5 players en route in Karolina Pliskova and Garbiñe Muguruza, she faced off against Simona Halep, whom she defeated in 3 sets to claim the title. The win propelled her to a career high of number 6 in the singles rankings, as well as to the top spot in the race to Singapore. She then started her campaign at the French Open as one of the favorites to win the tournament. Svitolina progressed through her first 3 matches with relative ease, defeating Yaroslava Shvedova, Svetlana Pironkova, and Magda Linette, respectively. Svitolina then overcame qualifier Petra Martic in a tight 3-set encounter to advance to her 2nd major quarterfinal. She faced Simona Halep in a rematch of the Italian Open final. Svitolina led by a set and 5-1 and held a match point against the 2014 finalist, but lost in 3 sets. The 3rd set at love. At Wimbledon, she surpassed her previous performances by reaching the 4th round, defeating Birmingham finalist and potential dark horse Ashley Barty in the 1st round. She then eased past Francesca Chavon and Karina Withoft before bowing out to 13th seed and French Open champion Yelena Ostapenko in straight sets. Her 5th title of the year and 3rd successive at Premier 5 level came in Toronto, where she defeated 4 top 10 players en route in Venus Williams, Garbiñe Muguruza, Simona Halep, and Caroline Wozniacki. Svitolina's first loss of the season at Premier 5 level came the following week in the 3rd round of Cincinnati, losing to Julia Gorgas. She entered the U.S. Open knowing that a run to the semifinals would see her claim the world number 1 ranking for the first time. She overcame Katerina Siniakova in a rain-interrupted 3-set encounter before easing past Evgenia Rodina and Shelby Rogers to reach the round of 16 at the U.S. Open for the first time. She was then defeated by eventual runner-up Madison Keys in 3 sets. Despite missing a large part of the Asian swing, Svitolina still secured her place at the year-end WTA Finals in Singapore, making her the first Ukrainian ever to do so. As the 3rd seed in Beijing, she progressed to her 8th quarterfinal of the year with relative ease, defeating wildcard Zhu Lin, recent Wuhan finalist Ashley Barty, and Elena Svitolina. There, she was defeated by Caroline Garcia on a final set tiebreak. Svitolina was drawn into the red group at the WTA Finals, alongside Halep, Wozniacki, and Caroline Garcia. Despite earning her fifth career win over a #1 ranked player by defeating Halep, Svitolina lost her other two matches, including a 2-set drubbing by eventual champion Wozniacki, which ultimately placed her third in the group. She finished the year ranked at number 6. 2018, WTA Finals champion Svitolina at the 2018 French Open. Svitolina began her 2018 season by capturing the Brisbane International title, defeating qualifier Alexandra Sasnovich in the final. She then competed at the Australian Open as the 4th seed, faced qualifier Ivana Jorovic, and won in straight sets. Against Katerina Siniakova, Svitolina prevailed in 3 sets. She then had 2 straight sets wins over qualifier and compatriot Marta Kostyuk and Denisa Alertova to advance to her first Australian Open quarterfinal, where she was upset by Elise Mertens in straight sets. Svitolina's 11th career title came after a successful defense of her crown in Dubai, where she brushed aside Daria Kasatkina in the final. After losing to Carla Suarez Navarro in the 3rd round of Indian Wells, she produced her best ever result in Miami, reaching the quarterfinals before falling to eventual runner-up Jelena Ostapenko in straight sets. Rebounding from a 2nd-round loss in Madrid to Suarez Navarro, Svitolina claimed her 2nd straight Italian Open crown, defeating top seed Simona Halep in 2 sets in a rematch of the previous year's final. At the French Open, Svitolina posted wins against Ajla Tomjanovic and Victoria Kuzmova before being upset in the 3rd round by Mihaela Buzarnescu. She began her grass court season with a run to the quarterfinals of Birmingham, losing again to Buzarnescu. Svitolina was then upset in the 1st round of Wimbledon by recent Mallorca champion Tatiana Maria. She enjoyed moderate success during the U.S. Open Series, reaching the semifinals in Montreal, where she was the defending champion, and the quarterfinals of Cincinnati, losing there to eventual champion Kiki Bertens. She reached the round of 16 at the U.S. Open for the 2nd straight year, losing to Anastasia Sevastova in 3 sets. Svitolina's struggles with form continued into the Asian swing, with back-to-back opening round losses to eventual champion Aryna Sabalenka in Wuhan and Alexandra Krunic in Beijing, despite opening up a 6-0, 3-0 lead in the latter match. A quarterfinal defeat in Hong Kong to in-form Wang Qiang, coupled with Svitolina's decision not to play in the final week of the year at either Moscow or Luxembourg City, meant that qualification for the WTA Finals in Singapore would rest on the performances of Karolina Pliskova and Kiki Bertens in Moscow. Pliskova's defeat in the 2nd round ensured that Svitolina would qualify for Singapore for the 2nd successive year. As the 6th seed, she was drawn into the white group, alongside defending champion Caroline Wozniacki and Czechs Pliskova and Petra Kvitova. She won all 3 of her round-robin matches, first snapping a 7-match losing streak against Kvitova, defeating her in straight sets. She then defeated both Pliskova and Wozniacki in 3 sets to secure her place in the semifinals alongside Pliskova. She defeated Kiki Bertens in 3 sets, and in the final, she came from a set down to beat Sloane Stephens, winning the biggest title of her career. Svitolina ended the year as the world number 4. 2019. 2 major semifinals. Svitolina opened the season with an unsuccessful title defense in Brisbane. She lost her first match to the previous year's finalist, Alexandra Sasnovich. Seeded 6th at the Australian Open, she defeated qualifier Victoria Golubic, Victoria Kuzmova, Zhang Shuai, and 17th seed Madison Keys to make her 2nd consecutive quarterfinal at the Australian Open. She was, however, afflicted by a neck and shoulder injury and was defeated by 4th seed and eventual champion Naomi Osaka in straight sets. Svitolina then reached back-to-back semifinals in Doha, losing with the lead in the final set against Simona Halep, and Dubai, where she was the 2-time defending champion, losing in a 3rd-set tiebreak to eventual champion Belinda Bencic. Svitolina reached her 3rd consecutive semifinal of the year at Indian Wells. In her first premier mandatory semifinal since 2016, she lost in 3 sets to 18-year-old wildcard and eventual champion Bianca Andreescu. The next week at the Miami Open, she suffered a surprise defeat in her opening match against Wang Yafan. Svitolina later revealed that she had been struggling with knee pain for several weeks and announced she would take a short break to recover. Svitolina's clay court season began with back-to-back opening round losses to Pauline Parmentier in Madrid and to Victoria Azarenka in Rome, where she was the two-time defending champion and had held a match point leading in the final set. At the French Open, Svitolina was defeated in the third round by the 2016 champion Garbiñe Muguruza. After losing in her opening round at both Birmingham and Eastbourne, Svitolina proceeded to reach her first Grand Slam semifinal at Wimbledon, with victories over Daria Gavrilova, Margarita Gasparyan, Maria Sakkari, Petra Martic, and Karolina Mukova, becoming the first Ukrainian ever to do so. There, she faced eventual champion Simona Halep and was defeated in 2 sets. The North American hardcourt season began for Svitolina at San Jose, where, as the top seed, she fell to Maria Sakkari in the quarterfinals. She would then fall to Sofia Kenin in both the quarterfinals of Toronto and the round of 16 at Cincinnati. Entering the U.S. Open as the number 5 seed, Svitolina defeated Whitney Oswego, Venus Williams, Diana Yastremska, and Madison Keys to reach her first U.S. Open quarterfinal. There, she defeated Johanna Konta in straight sets for a spot in her second successive Grand Slam semifinal. She was then defeated in straight sets by Serena Williams. She subsequently returned to her career-high ranking position of number 3. Svitolina reached 3 consecutive quarterfinals in the season-closing Asian swing, losing to Kristina Mladenovic in Zhengzhou, eventual runner-up Alison Risk in Wuhan, and Kiki Bertens in Beijing. Despite failing to reach a final during the season, Svitolina's overall consistency managed to secure her spot as the 8th seed at the WTA Finals in Shenzhen for the 3rd successive year. She was drawn into the purple group alongside Karolina Pliskova, U.S. Open champion Bianca Andreescu, who was later replaced by Sofia Kenin, and Wimbledon champion Simona Halep. Svitolina topped her group, winning all 3 matches without dropping a set. Her semi-final match against Belinda Bencic was cut short when Bencic retired with a leg injury, down 4-1 in the final set, meaning that Svitolina would advance to the final for the 2nd year in succession, as well as her first final since winning the title in 2018. She failed to defend her title, however, losing in straight sets to Ashley Barty. This meant Svitolina failed to win a title during the year for the first time since 2012. 2020. 2 titles, top 5. Svitolina at the 2020 Australian Open. At her first tournament of the year in Brisbane, Svitolina lost in the first round to Danielle Collins in straight sets. At the Australian Open, Svitolina defeated Katie Boulter and Lauren Davis before falling to eventual runner-up Garbiñe Muguruza. Svitolina's slow start to the season continued, being upset in the quarterfinals of Hua Hin by Nao Hibino, and in the first round of both Dubai by Jennifer Brady and Doha by Amanda Anisimova. She rebounded at the Monterrey Open, where she easily reached the final without dropping a set. She then defeated Marie Buskova in the final in 3 sets, capturing her 14th singles title and her first since her WTA Finals win over 16 months ago. Following the suspension of the WTA Tour due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Svitolina declined to participate in the U.S. Open due to safety concerns. Her first tournament back was the Italian Open and defeated Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova and Svetlana Kuznetsova to reach the quarterfinals, where she lost to Marketa Vondrousova, winning just 3 games. She next participated at Strasbourg, where she defeated Magda Linette, Jill Teichmann, and Arina Sabalenka to reach the final. There, she won her 15th WTA singles title, defeating Elena Rybakina in 3 tight sets. At the French Open, where she was the 3rd seed, Svitolina defeated Varvara Gracheva, Renata Zarazua, Ekaterina Alexandrova, and Caroline Garcia to reach the quarterfinals. At this stage, she was upset by qualifier and world number 130 Nadia Podoroska. Her final tournament of the season was at the inaugural event in Ostrava, where, in receipt of a first-round bye, she was defeated by Maria Sakkari in straight sets in the 2nd round. She ended her season at Ostrava and ended the year ranked number 5. 2021.
Olympic bronze medal Svitolina began her year as the second seed at the Abu Dhabi Open and made it to the quarterfinals, where she lost to unseeded Veronika Kudermetova after a third-set tiebreak, during which she could not recover from a 3-0 gap at the start. Following the loss, she embarked on her first tournament of the Australian hardcourt swing at the inaugural Gippsland Trophy in Melbourne, where she entered as the third seed. After holding off Andrea Petkovic and Jelena Ostapenko, she was confronted by Elise Mertens and lost after her second consecutive third-set tiebreak at the tournament. Next, Svitolina began the Australian Open as the fifth seed and made it to the fourth round before she was shocked by unseeded Jessica Pegula in another three-set match, one that she recapped as "where nothing was going my way." The loss gave Pegula her first victory over a top 10 player, but Svitolina her sixth defeat to a player ranked outside the top 30 at a major event since she had become ranked within the top 10 since May 2017. In March, Svitolina began the year's Middle Eastern hardcourt swing that ended with consecutive disappointments. She first entered the Qatar Ladies Open as the top seed, but was defeated by an injured Victoria Azarenka in her second match of the tournament. The following week, she entered the Dubai Championships as the first seed once more, but she was quickly forced out just after her first match following a loss to Svetlana Kuznetsova in 3 sets. Later that month, she turned her fortunes around at the Miami Open after she reached the semifinals for the first time in her 7th appearance at the tournament. She was defeated by eventual champion Ash Barty in straight sets. Svitolina kicked off the year's Europe clay swing at the Stuttgart Open with a strong performance after making it to the semifinals following a grueling 3-set win over defending champion Petra Kvitova in the quarterfinals. The win set her up for her second semi-final match of the year against Ashley Barty, where she eventually came up short again in another 3-set match. The defeat marked her third consecutive loss to Barty in their head-to-head record. Svitolina experienced much less success at the Madrid Open after being upset in the first round by Gilles Teichmann, but she shrugged the loss off quickly as she made it into the quarterfinals of the Italian Open the following week. There, she was defeated by eventual champion Iga Swiatek in straight sets. The swing ended at the French Open, where fifth-seeded Svitolina lost in the third round to eventual champion Barbora Krejcikova in straight sets. Despite the losses, Svitolina credited her investment in online psychology courses with helping her cope with the chaotic nature of being on tour during the clay court swing amid the pandemic. For the grass swing, second-seeded Svitolina attended her first tournament at the German Open in Berlin and had a rough start after she was ousted in her first match there. Her loss to Ekaterina Alexandrova in straight sets marked her first loss to the Russian in their 4-match head-to-head record. Her woes followed her to the Eastbourne International the following week, where she was defeated in the second round by unseeded Elena Rybakina in straight sets. The swing culminated with Wimbledon, where the defending semifinalist finished a disappointing grass court swing with a straight-set loss to unseeded Magda Linette in just the second round. Her elimination marked the biggest upset of the year's tournament at the time. At the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, Svitolina embarked on her second Olympics appearance and entered into the singles tennis tournament as the 4th seed. This would be her second bid to earn her home country its very first medal in tennis in Olympics history. After defeating Camila Giorgi in the quarterfinals, she was stopped from reaching the gold medal match by Marketa Vondrousova in the semifinals when she lost in straight sets. Disappointed from losing the semifinals but unfazed, she faced off against Elena Rybakina in the bronze medal match, in a rematch since their encounter in Eastbourne. This time, Svitolina exacted revenge and came back from a set down to win the second set tiebreak and the decider. Speaking on the significance of the victory after winning the bronze medal, Svitolina exclaimed, "To win such a big battle for the bronze, it means the world for me. Everyone in Ukraine is watching. We don't win so many medals. It's very special for me and Ukraine. I want to be remembered as a fighter for my country. I want to win everything that I play, and I always try to do my best and be at my best for Ukraine." Svitolina, speaking about the Olympics,
Coming off of her win in Tokyo, Svitolina hoped to continue her streak of success in the beginning of the North American hardcourt swing during the year's U.S. Open series. But she quickly failed to materialize crucial wins in the first two tournaments of the swing. At the Canadian Open, third-seeded Svitolina was defeated in her first match by Johanna Konta in a 3-set loss, despite having won the first set. The loss marked her first in their 6-match head-to-head record. The following week, at the Cincinnati Open, fourth-seeded Svitolina was again ousted in her first match, this time against Angelique Kerber in another 3-set loss. After her disappointing early exits, Svitolina traveled to Michigan for the inaugural Chicago Open as the top seed, where she won her 16th WTA title after defeating Alizé Cornet in the final match in straight sets. Regarding her decision to play in Chicago, Svitolina said, "I came here to get some confidence, play some good matches, and in the end, it happened like that. I'm looking forward to New York." At the U.S. Open, fifth-seeded Svitolina began her campaign with straight sets wins over Rebecca Marino and Rebecca Masarova in the first and second round, respectively. She followed those victories with 2 additional straight-set wins over 25th seed Daria Kasatkina and 12th seed Simona Halep to reach her second U.S. Open quarterfinal. But in the quarterfinals, Svitolina was toppled by unseeded 19-year-old Leylah Fernandez in a thriller 3-setter that saw Svitolina take the second set and come back from 3 games down in the decider to take the set to a tiebreak. Svitolina ultimately became the third of 4 seeded players that Fernandez defeated while on her winning streak to reach her first Grand Slam final. A few weeks later, in a bid to replicate the success she experienced in Chicago just a few weeks prior, Svitolina entered into the inaugural Chicago Fall Tennis Classic as the top seed, but she lost to 6th seed and eventual finalist Ons Jabeur in straight sets in the quarterfinals. The loss was her first to Jabeur in their 4 encounters. At Indian Wells, the defending semifinalist entered as the 4th seed and fought off Sorana Cîrstea in the 3rd round in a 3-set match, where she was down by a break in the deciding set, before she was swiftly ousted by Pegula in the 4th round in a straight sets breadstick defeat. Following the loss, she explained to the press that she had been suffering from a muscle strain in her right leg during the tournament, which prevented her from practicing regularly and severely hampered her movement during her final match. Her season-end struggles continued after a first-round defeat by Camila Osorio at the Tenerife Ladies Open. For the first time in 4 years, she ended the year outside of the top 10, ranked at number 15. 2022. Pregnancy, hiatus, and fundraising for Ukraine. Svitolina's disappointing beginning to her season consisted of back-to-back losses at the Adelaide International, 1 to Anastasia Gasanova and 2 to Madison Keys. She then jump-started her first major campaign of the year as the 15th seed at the Australian Open with 2 consecutive wins over Fiona Ferro and Harmony Tan before she quickly succumbed to Victoria Azarenka after winning just 2 games in their 3rd-round encounter. Of her 8 remaining matches of the season, Svitolina managed to win just 3, with 2 being in Monterrey, that led to her only quarterfinal of the year, where she lost to Camila Osorio. Following the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine in February, Svitolina made headlines when she declared she would not play against anyone representing Russia or Belarus after she was placed against Russian player Anastasia Potapova in the first round of the Monterrey draw. And she and her compatriots demanded that the tennis governing bodies deem any Russian or Belarusian player to be neutral athletes during the war. Her concerns were later heated. On the 31st of March, 2022, Svitolina announced that she was taking a temporary break from competition, citing health problems, including back pain, and emotional exhaustion from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In May, she later announced that she was pregnant with her first child, after which she gave birth in October. Throughout her hiatus, Svitolina took on an active role in charity exhibitions and galas to raise awareness and money in support of Ukraine. In July, she joined Iga Swiatek and Agnieszka Radwanska for an exhibition in Krakow, in which she was the chair umpire. Together, they raised over €400,000 for her eponymous foundation, United 24 and UNICEF Polska. In October, she raised over €240,000 for her foundation and United 24 in a charity gala in Monaco. 2023 Wimbledon semifinal. Joined by new coach Raymond Sluiter, Svitolina made her return to the tour at the Charleston Open in April with a wildcard, where she lost in 3 sets against Yulia Putintseva. She continued her comeback by entering into 2 tournaments on the ITF Women's World Tennis Tour, marking her return to the circuit for the first time in 10 years. In May, Svitolina won consecutive matches for the first time in the season at the Open de Saint-Malo and reached the semifinals, where she bowed out to eventual champion Sloane Stephens. The newfound momentum led Svitolina to her 17th career WTA title in Strasbourg over Anna Blinkova. It was her second title in Strasbourg, her first title in 21 months, and it extended her perfect streaks in clay court finals to 6 and WTA 250 finals to 10. She reached the 4th round at the French Open, defeating 26th seed Martina Trevisan, along with comeback wins over qualifier Storm Hunter and again over Anna Blinkova. She went on to defeat the 9th seed Daria Kasatkina to book her spot in a Grand Slam quarterfinal for the 9th time in her career, her 4th at the French Open and her first at a major since the US Open in 2021. Despite losing to world number 2 and reigning Australian Open champion Aryna Sabalenka in straight sets, Svitolina returned to the top 100 on the 12th of June 2023. Her good form continued at Wimbledon, where she reached back-to-back quarterfinals as a wildcard, defeating Venus Williams, Elise Mertens, Sofia Kenin, and 19th seed Victoria Azarenka. She defeated the world number 1 Iga Swiatek to make her second Wimbledon semifinal. It was also her 4th win over a major champion. She became the 3rd player in the Open era to defeat 4 former major champions in a single Grand Slam tournament after Serena Williams at the 1999 US Open and Justine Henin at Roland Garros in 2005. As a result, she returned to the top 30, rising close to 50 positions up in the rankings. In July 2023, when Ukrainian 4-time individual world sabre champion Olga Karlin was disqualified at the World Fencing Championships for not shaking the hand of her defeated Russian opponent, though she instead offered a tapping of blades in acknowledgement, Svitolina voiced support for Karlin. "Why don't Russians respect our position?" she asked. She called on the Fédération Internationale d'Escrime to follow the WTA's lead. It has supported Svitolina's decision to not shake hands with Russians or Belarusians after matches. She said, "I think the other sports federations should do the same. They should respect our decision and the decision of our country as well." Svitolina called the FIE's disqualification disrespectful towards Ukrainians. 2024-25. 3 major quarterfinals at the 2024 Australian Open, Svitolina reached the 4th round, but retired with a back injury in her match against Linda Noskova. At the 2024 French Open, she advanced to the 4th round, where she lost to Elena Rybakina. Seeded 21st at Wimbledon, she defeated world number 10 Ons Jabeur in the 3rd round and Wang Xinyu in round 4. In the quarterfinals, she once again lost to Rybakina in straight sets. Svitolina was a flag bearer for Ukraine at the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. As a defending bronze medalist, she upset 5th seed Jessica Pegula in the 2nd round. She lost to reigning Wimbledon champion Barbora Krejcikova in the 3rd round. Seeded 27th at the 2024 US Open, she lost to defending champion Coco Gauff in the 3rd round. She ended her 2024 season early at the end of September following her withdrawal due to surgery from the China Open. With her 2nd round win over Caroline Dolehide at the 2025 Australian Open, Svitolina became the first Ukrainian player, male or female, in the Open era with 100 main draw wins at Grand Slam tournaments. She subsequently reached the quarterfinals with wins over 4th seed Jasmine Paolini and former world number 9 Veronika Kudermetova for the 3rd time at the tournament. In the quarterfinals, she lost to eventual champion Madison Keys in 3 sets. Svitolina had a successful clay season in 2025. She defeated Olga Danilovich to win her 18th WTA title at the Open de Rouen.
Seeded 17th at the Madrid Open, she defeated Sonai Kartal, 10th seed Rybakina, Maria Sakkari, and Moyuka Uchijima to extend her win streak to 10 matches. She lost to eventual champion Aryna Sabalenka in the semifinals.
She followed that up with a quarterfinal appearance at Rome, losing to Peyton Stearns despite a third-set lead. At the French Open, she defeated reigning finalist Paolini in the fourth round to make her second major quarterfinal of the year. There, she lost to three-time defending champion Iga Swiatek.
Seeded 14th at Wimbledon, Svitolina lost to Elise Mertens in the third round. She reached the quarterfinals in Canada, but lost in the first round of Cincinnati and the U.S. Open. After losing in the semifinals of the Billie Jean King Cup to Jasmine Paolini, Svitolina ended her season early, citing her need to heal and recharge.
She finished the year ranked number 14, her highest finish since her return. 2026, Australian Open semifinal, Dubai final, return to top 10 Svitolina. Began her season by claiming her 19th title at Auckland, defeating Wang Xinyu in the final.
She reached the quarterfinals of the Australian Open by defeating Kristina Buxa, Linda Klimovicova, Diana Schneider, and Mira Andreeva, making headlines for drawing X's on camera lenses after defeating Russians Schneider and Andreeva. In the quarterfinals, she defeated Coco Gauff, advancing to her first Australian Open semifinal and returning to the top 10 for the first time since October 2021. In the semifinals, she lost to Aryna Sabalenka.
She lost in the third round of Doha to Anna Kalinskaya. At Dubai, she defeated Paula Badosa by retirement, Belinda Bencic, and Antonia Ruzic to reach the semifinals. She defeated Coco Gauff in match lasting over 3 hours to reach her first WTA 1000 final since Rome in 2018, a record gap of over 7 years. In the final, she lost to Jessica Pegula.
Playing style Svitolina, returning from the baseline at the 2015 French Open, Svitolina is a defensive baseliner. The Guardian describes Svitolina's playing style as deceptively casual, but being capable of brilliant displays when in good form. Svitolina is capable of turning defense into offense when given the chance, and is capable of hitting low-risk winners from defensive positions. Her ground strokes are very consistent and are hit with moderate power, although she is capable of hitting ground strokes with significant power when the opportunity arises. Her backhand is her stronger side, especially down the line and on the run, although both her forehand and her backhand penetrate deep into the court. Her second serve is particularly weak and often exploited, allowing return winners. She often struggles if playing against someone who is very aggressive and not making many unforced errors on that day. Her first serve speed peaks at 110 miles per hour, 175 kilometers per hour, allowing her to serve aces. She has been known to struggle with volleying at the net, but she possesses good reactions and she can accelerate well across the court to deal with short balls. Her favorite surfaces are grass and clay, although she has yet to reach a singles final on grass. Coaches Svitolina was coached by Sebastian Matteo in 2013 and 2014. She then worked with Ian Hughes for 2.5 years and chose to split from him in November 2016. In February 2016, she added former world number 1 Justine Henin to her coaching team. In late 2016, Svitolina announced that Gabriel Erpi would be her new coach, with Thierry Assion replacing Henin as her new coaching consultant. Assion coached Svitolina until the 2018 U.S. Open, and she then had a brief stint with Nick Saviano, while still being accompanied on a weekly basis by hitting partner Andrew Bettles. Bettles became her full-time coach for the 2018 season, and former player Marcos Bogdadis began working with her for the 2020 season. Following the end of her 2021 season, Svitolina split with Bettles, announcing her new team would be made of Andis Juska as new coach and Gunter Bresnik as consultant. After her maternity leave hiatus in 2022, Svitolina returned to the tour in April 2023 with Raymond Sluiter. Svitolina announced she had split from Sluiter on the 19th of July 2024. Equipment Svitolina had been endorsed by Nike for clothing and shoes since 2016, having previously been sponsored by Ellesse and Lacoste. In 2023, she began endorsing Adidas clothing and shoes.
Svitolina used Wilson rackets, specifically endorsing the Wilson Blade range of rackets. In 2025, she endorsed the company Diadem Sports and specifically started playing with their Axis 98 racket. Personal life.
They began their relationship in 2019, announced their engagement on 3 April 2021, and were married on 16 July 2021. Svitolina did not change her surname professionally with the ITF to Monfils, but she uses Elina Monfils on Twitter. On 15 May 2022, Svitolina and Monfils announced they were expecting their first child together, a girl. She was born later that year.